One subject that is clearly going to be topical at the moment is going allowances for tracks. Some are very, very poor. We've got some biases. We've got some inconsistent running. Um, there was one comment that I didn't hear directly. It came secondhand, so I'm certainly not going to name who said it. But I believe that somebody in the media said recently that something, excuse me, something along the lines of, um, I'm not convinced that there's any major problem with slow going, and unless I get the veterinary reports to show that injuries occur, I won't accept it. Now, I'm an ex-kennel lad. You've been around dogs all your life. Anybody who's spent any degree of time in kennels knows that slow going is a recipe for muscle injuries, and apart from tiredness and drawing the guts out of dogs, we know that soreness occurs. We know that injuries occur in themselves. They might not be as dramatic as a broken hock, and they may not even appear until the next day. But I'm sure you'll agree that it is a thing.
Well, what I'd say to this individual is maybe in their younger days they might have gone on the beach and they might have gone playing a bit of beach volleyball on the beach or doing some sort of activity on the beach like we've all done in the past. And when they ran along the beach where the sea had just been in and just gone out again, it took them to run along there. And then if they went onto the beach where there'd been no water or it was deep, where did they really want to run? Did they want to run and enjoy running where the water had just been in and just been out again, and it was nice underfoot and it was quite easy to run, or did they want to run a sprint or however sort of pace they ran in that dry sand, pulling at the back of the calves? How did they feel? Now, it doesn't take a layman to actually realise. You think to yourself, well, I felt better running where that sand was nice and sort of firm, enjoyable with a bit of giving, etc. And actually, if I ran flat out through that really dry sand, it pulled me and I was very tired and I was, I didn't like it. Well, for me, that tells me everything. I'd rather run on nice going, which wasn't really hard going and tough, than run on the other one. And I just don't like the fact that nobody really has any decent saying on this at this point in time. We've not had a track specialist since probably Johnny Haynes left, and for some reason we're not intent on trying to get one. It's been advertised. I know there's two really, really good people out there. They're probably more than these two people. It's just that I know these two people. I know the tracks, what they look after, and they were really willing to try and do the job or put in for the job, etc. And for some reason, as a sport, whether it's their own employers don't want to lose them, well, that's the real world. There's plenty of people, who's in jobs and their employer don't want to lose them, but we could lose them to the sport. We could lose these people to the sport. These are people who are good at the jobs. Why aren't we giving them the chance to go around and help us out at other places? I'm not saying these other places are wrong, so I don't want anybody trying to accuse me to say somebody's running unsafe tracks, etc. I just can't work out why we haven't got consistency. We can't all be doing it right and we can't all be doing it wrong. So who is doing it more right and who is doing it more wrong? And let's get ourselves on top of this, because if we're all doing it all right, I'm shocked, because I can't see how you can have a plus 50 and a minus 180 and yet they're both doing it right.
Yeah, very much so. I think one of the points I would make, and I was thinking back on this, and I hear some of the discussions that are taking place, and I think I must be living in a time warp here, because I can remember in the Ground Star as the newspaper reporting back, what would it be, 15 years ago, all the work that was carried out by the Sports Turf Research Institute, all the testing with Clegg hammers, checking, analysing all the different sands, going through the loam content, the clay content, looking at the grain size. Remember Gordon Bissett getting involved, taking home samples, or taking to Monmore samples and putting them in a freezer and testing loads and loads of different samples of sand. The use of the Clegg hammer, the use of the various measurements that were used. Now, sand hasn't changed in a billion years. This research is only 20 years old. some of those lessons that appear to have been learned then appear to have been forgotten. And I hear people now talking, and I hear all these experts, because we're an industry full of experts, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, we've been here before. We don't have to. All we have to do is go and look back at the old. I can probably find in bound copies of the Greyhound Star all the stuff there. I had an interest in it. I found it fascinating. All the things that we learned about track surfaces, race preparations. We know that sand migrates. We know that the big grains go to the bottom, and if you don't churn them over, then you get a pan at the bottom and you get broken hooks because the leg slips. We know that if you continue to water a track from the outside, then the grains of sand will move towards the inside and you'll lose your camber. You'll have an adverse camber and you get broken hooks. We know all of this stuff. So why is it so bloody difficult not to bang heads together and go, come on, guys, we haven't got to go and research all this. We haven't got to go and spend another 300 grand researching this. All we've got to do is get the right person and say, here's the info. You're a good trackman anyway. All the background you need is there. Just get on with it.
Do you know what gets me, Floyd? From years ago, from watching my dad actually when he had Long Eaton, the people who looked after tracks were dog people.
Yeah.
They were dog people, and they were first and foremost, they were probably actual had greyhounds in the past, etc. So they was wanting to do everything which was 100% because they knew what impact it would have on the dogs, etc. And they were fanatics of the sport and enjoyed the sport. So they spent the time on the tracks 24/7 because that were their enjoyment. It wasn't really so much of a job. It was their enjoyment. And like I see the chap at Nottingham, he's such an animal man sort of thing, etc. And if a dog does seem to get hurt, he's straight round to that point there. And sometimes I have disagreements with him, whatever. But I'm so chuffed that I can actually see somebody who is so keen on the dogs and the welfare of the dogs, etc. I think so. Well, if someone's not quite right, I know he's doing his best and he's trying, and that's all you ever want to see is somebody trying and doing the best. And if somebody gets something wrong, you take it far easier because it's not because of lack of effort or they're not bothered, and they'll learn from it or they'll try and get it right, etc. That's all you ever want in life. Is really nobody gets everything right all the time. You just want someone trying to do the best and trying to get there and stuff. And it does get me down really and stuff because I sometimes think to myself, we've got an industry where it's not dog people sometimes doing things and it's just a job to them. Well, getting a track right, etc., shouldn't just be a job to them. You've got a dog's life in your hands, etc., and you've got a dog's career, etc. And some of these dogs, they're worth fortunes, and you can ruin somebody's enjoyment or put somebody out of a sport straight away by just an injury to one certain dog, etc. And I just think we should do more towards leading from the industry to have somebody out there to help these people, etc.
Well, it just seems to me that there's no real accountability. I mean, when you're talking about, I don't know, telling trainers what the vans have got to be like, or what the track kennels have got to be like, or the vet in attendance check what the dog is, or your personal kennels or whatever. Once we get to the racing circuit and the racing surface, it seems to be a free-for-all. Nobody seems to be in a position to go, that track isn't safe. I was talking to Kevin Hutton the other day, and he was, sorry, not Kevin Hunt, I was talking to Patrick Janssens. And Patrick said, it's all very well having a hot weather policy, we should have a cold weather policy. And which is much more serious, because as he said, I've raced in Florida. He said, and we've raced at like 30 odd degrees without any problem. He said, but when you get the tracks that are cold and hard and, you're going to get broken toes, or they become sloppy because their tracks are too frightened to water because they're frightened that if they water, they will go hard. That is infinitely more dangerous to the welfare of the dog. But there's nobody there to say, I will testify that this is a safe track. And we know that it can be done. We know, I mean, I can remember, or we can both remember, I'm sure, various cases. There was a series of incidents at Poole, 10 years ago, where they had something like 10 broken hocks in the space of about a week. And John Haynes went down there and they saw that they got an adverse camber, and they had to basically completely remove the camber from the outside, replace it, and it disappeared. We remember the Scottish Derby at Shawfield, where the dogs ran, what was it, 2 seconds slow? In the Scottish Derby, they were doing like 31 seconds or something like that, because the track had been harrowed up, hadn't been plated before it started to rain. We had a similar incident at Walthamstow. All this information is out there, and somebody should be in a position to go, I'm sorry, I'm not allowing you to race on that track. That track isn't safe.
But have we got anybody who's willing to stand up in this sport at this point in time to turn around and say to somebody, you're not running this track? You know, has anybody got the courage to stand up and do that? And I might upset people by saying I don't think we have, and I'm gutted about that, really. And I feel really downhearted about that at this point in time, because I expected we had and we should have, and I'm starting to wonder whether we have. That's my real downer at this point in time. Not just on surfaces, etc. I just think the sport in general. I've got a real downer about things, and I like to be very positive a lot of the times, and I just worry. I worry, to be quite honest, that which way we're going, and who is in control at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, going back, and I know he wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I thought he was a good guy, and that was John Haynes. And John, he was a Marmite character. He ruffled a lot of people. I always found him very, very straight. And but John was one of those people who, when he got into a track, would say, "That's not safe. I'm not prepared to authorise that." And someone that is going to be given the clout to say, "It's just not good enough." You wouldn't expect me to turn up with my dogs, or my trainers turn up with their dogs that are carrying injuries or other bits and pieces wrong with them. Yet you expect to be able to put dogs out on a track that just isn't in good condition.
But that's it, and that's why I wonder: is that the reason we haven't got a track specialist? Because maybe these people who I know would have liked the job, they might stand up and turn around and go, "This isn't safe. You're not running on this." Now, if they go back to the hierarchy back at head office and say this track can't run tonight, and and they turn and go, whoa, no, it's got to run, or no, we can't be doing things like that, then maybe they don't want that.
I think so. The only thing is, I'm not prepared to take a negative view on it particularly, and I'll give you like the flip side of it is where you have circumstances where tracks have done the right thing, and I genuinely believe, and I'd like to repeat this, I genuinely believe most tracks try most of the time. And they're devastated when they get bad injuries. And I've spoken to general managers, track owners, and they're absolutely gutted when they get these injuries. So there is a flip side whereby they say, well, actually, we did race and we had 3 broken hocks, but the track inspector was here before the meeting and he said he thought the track was in excellent condition. So it is a get out of jail card for them as well if they're doing the right thing. I don't want to hammer tracks. I don't, we need the tracks. I don't want to there's a bit of mythology that goes around that all managements don't care, and I disagree with that. It's not what I found in my time in dog racing. So it's almost like a paranoia of handing over some power to people to go, do you know what? We're prepared to trust you that you'll make the right decision. And ultimately, if you come back, because in the end, I mean, we had a situation at Monmore on Saturday where the meeting was called off. Quite rightly so. I think it ended amicably, and I think everybody was, quite satisfied that it was called off. We had a similar position at Toaster not so long before. Had the track decided to oppose that, basically to oppose the trainers, they'd be absolutely letting themselves in for God knows what. Because the moment you get an injury, whether it's related to the track condition or not, they're going to get hammered for it, and they know that. So even in those circumstances, those managements will be better off saying, well, let's get the track guy in, let him see what he thinks of it, and if he says it's fit to run, then it's fit to run. So it's not necessarily a negative.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it a tough one. We've got such a good local chap down at Nottingham. I don't know whether we're just lucky, etc. in that, and I see things at the best side of things, and I just think to myself, well, if we're running the track like that, and he has put water on at certain times, and he's put salt on to a certain degree, etc., and it's been lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and you think I've had broken ox. You know, not long back I've had broken ox, and you accept them a bit easier. You know, in any walk of life, you're going to have accidents. You know, and I take them. It's an accident. I don't look to point the blame anywhere because I think to myself, they're doing the best.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, it looks impeccable. You know, it looks wonderful and stuff. And we've just had an accident, and you can walk away. You bring the dog home, you get it repaired, etc. And you don't feel that it's because it's negligence or anything like that. You just think, well, it's just bad luck. It's just one of the things. And I think that's all we all want. We all want to think the best is being done, and that if anything does happen, it's not because of lack of anything. It's just bad luck. And in all walks of life, you do get bad luck, and you just have to take that on the chin.
Yeah, yeah. Presumably that this will kind of go away once as the weather improves and everybody can water correctly, and we just wait for the next time for it to recur, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even you say that with summertime, etc., with the watering, because we're doing not real sort of rainwater, etc. It's artificial. You know, I think there's issues with that, etc. You know, you see a horse track and they've got the water going on through a sprinkler system. You haven't got a big, massive 30-ton bows or something around there going around, etc. And I think I don't like that. I personally don't like that, because I think you've got uneven going because you've got tyres going in a certain area with real that tonnage of weight, etc. So I think there's lots of different ways we should look at things and try and get better at them, etc. But as long as we do keep looking and try and get better, and that's my issue at this point in time, I don't think we are trying to get better. We're not looking. You know, we're just leaving everyone to their own thing. I did see a piece on Twitter. I don't know if you saw the same, where Josh Steely, I think he'd been asked a question. Have they had any help with certain things or this and that? And he says, no, he just left your own device and you just, you know, play it as you see it. And you think, so, well, as trainers, we don't do that. You know, we have independent, we have the starters coming around, etc. You know, why on this other side of the fence is it like that? And it shouldn't be like that. You know, we should be all equally looked at and have the same sort of people looking at us and going over it, etc. So I'm quite passionate about it, because it does have a massive difference on the coal face to us trainers and owners, etc., of having these things done properly.
I think so. I would go back though and say, I think in most cases people are doing their best, but it's that failure to be seen to be doing the right thing that gives the negative people that absolutely control Twitter and go on there and cause all the. But it gives them grounds. They go, oh well, there is no control. Tracks do as they like. Tracks can get away with murder. Tracks don't care. And as I said, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But unless you put something in place to say, well, actually, the tracks are being monitored and there is a kind of a policing system for the tracks, at that point, the tracks can hold their hands up and go, do you know what? It's not down to us anymore. You know, it's an industry-run thing. But incidentally, I was pulled up last week by Mr. Boothby watched one of these Zoom calls, and I made comment to, I think it was, I can't remember, it was Patrick or it might have been, no, it's Kevin Hutton, about how Toaster might get a bit tricky in the summer with the summer going, because of course they struggle to keep it wet there. And he gave me a bit of a bollocking and said, we'll be out there with the hoses, don't you worry, we'll make sure it's all watered properly around Toaster. So
I think it's easier dealing with the hot weather and getting water on than actually probably in the winter time getting it as best you can with not being able to have any water on. So if something drains a bit quicker, then we just get more on. So it's I don't think he'll have an issue with that.
Brilliant.
I'm actually waiting to see Kevin next time I see him, because I've seen on Twitter somebody thinks he's had his teeth done or something, Kevin. So I never noticed last time I see him, so I can't wait to see him again and ask him and see if he's got a bright smile.
You're going to get me hung, you know that.
Kev's all right, he won't mind.